On this episode of AV Week, the AV we need to get back to the work, back to the office, and back to performances, security of the AV network, and coding versus configuring. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 545, recorded Friday, January 28th, 2022. Coding is dead.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sennheiser. For over 75 years, Sennheiser has been a leader in pro audio and is now offering a wide variety of touchless and traditional audio solutions for both corporate and educational campus-wide audio.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have got this week, first and foremost, Charmaine Torella. I can't roll my R's, but she can. She's from Verix. How are you, ma'am?
Hello, sir. I'm from Verix, and it's Torella.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Erin Mayer Moran, we'll talk about her in a second, but she's here from Johns Hopkins. She's not a doctor, but she's smart enough to be one. How are you, ma'am?
Doing good. Glad to be here, Tim.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Jared Hellman from Hellman AV from Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is the birthplace of most of the best hockey players in the world. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. We're recording this on Friday, the 28th. If my team is listening to this, technically I took the day off, which is why I'm wearing a Blues jersey. If you're watching the video, if you're not watching the video, I'm wearing a tuxedo and you don't know. But we are still in the midst of the AVNation Reader's Choice Awards. By the time you're listening to this on Monday, you still have technically a couple of days to finish out here, or at least one day to finish out, because Monday is the 31st. And Ms. Mayer Moran is a finalist for the AVNation AV Tweets Award. So she's going up against a formidable opponent in one Ms. Lex Peters. So just vote your conscience. I'm not going to tell you which way to go. Her being on today has nothing to do with that. We talked about this a month ago. So there you go. All right. First story actually comes to us from an old friend of ours. Mr. Steve Greenblatt writes for our friends over AV Network, talking about the quote-unquote no coding solutions within the AV industry. Interesting the fact that Mr. Greenblatt wrote this, because Steve works or owns an independent programming house. But Steve goes into talking about the reason that it's in quotes is the no coding, according to Steve, can be a misleading term, quote unquote, providing a false sense of security that anyone can create an application regardless of their understanding or skill level. No coding does not equate to no knowledge, no understanding, or no effort. The need to conceptualize and define a blueprint for what is being developed is still a requirement, and understanding the logic and thought process of programming is still a prerequisite to maximize the effectiveness of no coding solutions. Charmaine, I'm going to take a left turn on this, and I'll probably get a call from Steve on Monday, which is fine. I understand his premise. I understand the piece that he wrote here. He's right. You do need the logic. You do need the process. However, are we getting to a point where coding is kind of dead in the industry? And when I say coding, understand what I was never a coder, right? Control is still my favorite part of the AV industry. I love it to death. I love what Control Concepts and Steve and the guys and gals do there. But I'm talking about sitting down and writing lines of code in the industry. Are we past that?
It's shifting. That's the best answer to give it to you. So it's not like it's going away, but it's shifting from that type of coding where you're doing, like you said, sitting down and writing lines and lines, and every time you add something, another set of lines and making sure it's correct. It's shifting away from that because the industry is shifting away from those types of integrations where it requires that type of coding. But there is a level of coding that's being factored in with the soft solutions that are coming in, but it's not the same coding that AV is used to. right? It's not the same coding with the Crestron, the AMXs. It's different now, which is asking for a different type of skill set that you have to still understand the previous, but now you have to factor in the other things like JSON and HTML. That has to be now factored. That's never been really factored in before, but we really have to get hip to it. So it's not gonna go away, but it is shifting into something else. And it still will be around for some complex rooms and systems, but there's gonna be more volume in the area that it's shifting towards. I hope that makes sense.
No,
I see Aaron's like, yep.
well, yeah, Aaron, jump in here because as a tech manager and somebody who manages, several hundreds of rooms on a university, this is an area that you guys kind of pay attention to on both sides. Not only do you pay a lot of times either independent programmers or through the integrators, but a lot of your fellow HETMA members will also have on-site integrators, in-house integrators, but also in-house programmers. So are we? Yeah. So are we? Are we there yet?
I appreciate that a lot of these systems are becoming more configurable versus programming or full-on programming. But as a control system programmer myself, it's not going anywhere. But Charmaine's right. It's a shift. They're moving away a bit from the dedicated languages that were used previously, and now they're moving more towards the same sort of languages that are used on web pages and in other IT applications. So it's going to be, I feel like, a bit more universal and usable for other applications, and become more robust in allowing certain like database polls and things like that for much more complicated system designs.
All right, Mr. Hillman, you have the last word on this. As somebody who you design and maintain, but also you're the owner of the company, so you've got a different kind of stake in this. Where are we at when it comes to this? And when you start looking for the next, I don't want to say generation, but your next programmer or your next, IT AV tech, is this something, is the fact that they need to know JSON and HTML5 more important than maybe, AMX coding?
So I'll try to speak within my knowledge framework, which is hard as an owner and a salesperson, because usually we talk out of that bubble maybe more than we should. So I'll try to contain myself here. But I think Aaron hit the nail on the head with saying configurable. And configurable programming has been around for a while, what I would have called, pick and pluck or like block diagram programming before. And it's always worked really well pending you use everything within that ecosystem that's available within that configuration. And by saying, what I mean by that is, you know the configuration software, and you know that it only provides modules for this device, this display device, and this amplifier, and this speaker set, and this DSP, and that's what you stay with it. It was almost like a fixed architecture. So as long as you stay within that ecosystem, configurable programming works really well. I don't think advanced programming, as I would see it, is going anywhere, because there's just not enough synergy yet across protocol, or not protocol wouldn't be the right word, but across the industry. So when you get into a boardroom, let's take Crestron for example, or Extron has a good example as well. Can you make a video conferencing room with your basic AV equipment work with configuration? Sure. But now tie in the HVAC and the lights and the shades, to which you have no idea what the brand is or what language it needs to communicate in. And that's where you have to open up to that advanced programming. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but I do really like how Steve's article says it's misleading, because I see users see that and they go, well, if I can program this myself, well then Heather at the front desk, she could program this, couldn't she? Like, couldn't I have her do it? Or Ted on our IT team, I mean, he's a network guy. He should be able to do this. And so I do agree it is misleading, but I don't think it's going anywhere.
Why do you got to hate on Heather at the front desk? I mean, seriously, that was just.
Well, and she's the lifesaver too, to be honest.
I thought Canadians were nice. I'm just saying. I mean, that was just. You are right. No, that is the one thing. And it's funny is Jared, you mentioned before we go to the next story here. You mentioned that a lot of these a lot of the robustness of some of these kind of configurable systems are based on the available modules that are available that people make. Well, Steve's company does. That's what Steve's company does, right?
I was thinking that too.
Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.